As students, money can be a really stressful variable, so I think learning how to manage your money at a young age is a really good foundational skill to build that will set you up for the future. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kenzie if you don't know me. I'm 23 years old and I'm from Alberta, Canada. I'm in the process of documenting my journey towards grad school to become a therapist, and I really want to share how I balance everything along with my hobbies, all my interests, my well-being. And one of the things I'm really interested in is personal finance. And as students, money can be a really stressful variable in your life. You don't have as much time to work, often taking out loans, or money's just tight. I think learning how to manage your money at a young age is a really good foundational skill to build that will set you up for the future. You always hear that quote, it's like, if you can't manage $1,000, you're not going to be able to manage $100,000, and it's so true. No matter how much money you have, it's important to know where your money's going. Are you saving towards any goals you have? Are you contributing towards retirement? Are you leaving room in your budget for those fun things? I think a lot of people, when they think of budgeting, they think of restricting themselves so much. Budgeting gives you the power to know how much money you can actually spend on fun things and then have guilt-free spending if you need to. Financial stress can really affect your well-being and is a root of anxiety for a lot of people. So becoming financially literate can help reduce that anxiety and can help you build security and sense of control over your future situation. I just want to preface this video first that I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm just sharing some tips that work for me as a really busy full-time student that is super passionate about personal finance and helping other people, especially women, be able to take control of their finances. So budgeting takes away the guesswork and stress with managing your money. You know where everything's going. It'll give you peace of mind. And I think it's actually healthy to allow some fun spending money in your budget. Makes it a lot more sustainable, and you'll be able to keep at this habit for a longer period of time. Another tip I have with budgeting is be flexible. I always adjust my budget accordingly throughout the month. You don't have to set it at the first of the month, enter in what you actually end up spending and then not changing anything. Like, let's say you set your dining out budget to be a lot more and your shopping to be lower, and then you ended up having your dinners out all being canceled and you accidentally went over on your shopping. It's okay to adjust that, because the second that you think you've gone over something and that you've already messed up, you might just be like, well, screw it, like I already didn't hit my budget for this month, what's the point? But that mindset really does not do anything for us. It's not about being perfect. Every single person has blown their budget at some point. It happens. Sometimes we just have busier months, things come up, we're just feeling spendier, we have other things going on in our life, and we cope by spending more money. Sometimes that just happens. So I think a lot of people have this sense of shame, but remember, your worth is not inherently tied to how well you manage your money. And I've heard Erin Comfortini say this, I'm sure other people have said this before too, but what does not get tracked does not get changed. So yeah, those are some of the reasons I think budgeting is really important. All right, so now we're gonna jump into how I budget as a student. When I was a little bit younger, I would get paid and I would just move everything into savings, and then whatever I'd spend, I'd pay off my credit card and everything else would be in savings, which seems fine. It's like, oh, I have this great savings rate. But then I felt like I could take from my savings anytime I wanted because I didn't have a specific goal. So my first tip is to figure out your goals and then track your progress towards those goals. So you'll want to know your immediate, short-term, and long-term financial goals that you're saving for. Otherwise, you'll be saving aimlessly, and it's a lot harder to actually want to put money away when you don't even really know what you're putting it away for. So an example of this is an immediate goal could be, okay, within this next year, I want to buy a new to me vehicle and I don't want a car payment. I'm going to save up in the next 10 months, let's say, so that I can buy a $10,000 car, let's say. So you have that timeline, you have 10 months, $10,000, that's $1,000 a month. So rather than just putting $1,000 in your bank account every month and being like, okay, like, what's that doing for me? You actually have this goal that you're trying to reach and you'll be more motivated to put money away. Other immediate goals can be like saving up for the Dyson Airwrap. Doesn't necessarily have to be the most responsible purchase of your life, but if it's something you want, I think it's a really good habit to learn how to save up for the things you want rather than just buying them and then figuring it out afterwards when you're paying it off. So a lot of those immediate goals can also be the form of sinking funds, which I will talk about later in this video. Now, more short-term goals, we have like 1 to 3 years kind of time span. You want to put a down payment on for a home. Of course, that's kind of a big goal for a lot of students, but that's just kind of an example. So if you're gonna need access to that money in the coming few years, I would recommend not investing it, but rather keeping it in a high interest savings account. High interest savings accounts are not a replacement for investing, but it's better bang for your buck rather than having it sit in a low interest savings account or a checking account. Essentially just a regular savings account, but every month you earn a percentage of the money you keep in there back in your pocket for free. So if you want to buy a house in 3 years, and let's say you want a $50,000 down payment, that's approximately $16,700 you need to save in a year, and then that means just under $1,400 a month. So by setting goals and a rough timeline for when you want to reach them, you're able to break it down into smaller steps and, okay, is this actually a feasible goal? Do I have to extend the timeline? Do I have to get another job, side hustle? Do I have to kind of take a look at my spending, see if there's any ways I can save a bit more money? Obviously, we have long-term goals, so that's like 5+ years. So a long-term goal for most people is retirement, and that's when you want to be investing. In Canada, we have the TFSA, RRSP, and the FHSA. So I'll talk about investing again later on in the video, but that's just a quick rundown of first step to budgeting is figuring out your financial goals, how long it's going to take you to get there, how much money you realistically need to save to hit that goal, and where you should be placing that money. Immediate and short term, I would suggest high interest savings account, and then anything long term, I would invest it. So after we figured out our goals, now it's time to lay our financial foundation, which is funding an emergency fund. So an emergency fund can be used for any kind of emergency. A lot of people have it just in case they're laid off from their job and don't have money coming in for a period of time. Some people, it's if something happens with their vehicle or an unexpected bill comes up. It can be whatever is an emergency to you in your life. If you're a student, you may not have that unstable of a financial life. Maybe in the summer you live at home with your parents, you work like part-time jobs here and there. So being laid off from a job and then having a mortgage isn't really an issue you're concerned about. But it's really important to still have an emergency fund because you quite literally never know what could happen. And knowing that if something comes up, you have the ability to cover it will help reduce that financial anxiety that we were talking about. Otherwise, if you have to put it on a credit card and you don't have the money for it, you're going to get charged insane interest on that. It's going to damage your credit score. And most importantly, it's going to impact you mentally. And having a nice emergency fund can really be a confidence booster. And then you can start saving up for some more fun things. For the emergency fund, people typically recommend 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So that's why I recommend tracking your spending and knowing how much you're spending on a monthly basis. You need to pay for your living, your rent, your food, gas, all of that kind of stuff. If you don't have anything, a lot of people suggest that first baby step of being just $1,000, which I think is a really good starting point. In the future, when you are a little bit more independent, you'll want a fully funded emergency fund. So I would keep chipping away at that so that by the time you live on your own, maybe you're thinking about having a family soon or something like that, you have a salary job, you don't know if you could be laid off. If you keep working away at that emergency fund now, you'll be able to have a fully funded one by then and not have that stress. And again, I would recommend putting this in a high interest savings account. This next part I think is really fun. Sinking fund is a small pot of money that you essentially save up for an expected large expense or unexpected expenses. So let's say you bleach your hair, you're a blonde, and you need to go every few months to get that done. And let's say it's like $400 every time you go. Instead of the day you get your hair done, just immediately paying that $400, you would every month or every paycheck put a little bit of money towards a sinking fund called hair fund, beauty fund, whatever you want to call it, so that by the time that you get your hair done, that money is already saved up and ready for you to spend. So that would be an example of an expected expense. An example of an unexpected expense could be any vehicle maintenance. So rather than not knowing when your vehicle is going to need something, especially if it's an older vehicle, and having to pay that when it comes up and it kind of breaking your budget for that month, if you routinely put a bit of money away for that purpose, if a vehicle emergency does come up, you're able to use that money. Another really great example of a sinking fund is a Christmas gift sinking fund. Every month starting to bulk up that fund so that by Christmas time, our December budget is not completely out of whack, we already have that money saved up, ready to spend for gifts for people. As I mentioned, I'm on my journey to become a future therapist, hopefully. So of course, I do like to practice what I preach, and I am in therapy. So that's something I have a sinking fund for. Because if I have one appointment in a month, or I have 2 appointments in a month, that's a drastic price difference that I'm spending in a month, and that can really create an unbalance in my budget. So I set away a certain amount every month into my therapy sinking fund, and then when I have an appointment, I pull it out of there. I usually have extra in there so that I have a bit of a buffer for that payment for therapy. I also have a fun money sinking fund. So this is another way you can make finances fun, is by actually allocating money for fun. You could have a travel sinking fund. If you're preparing to get married, you can make a wedding sinking fund. If you're a student like me, you can have a tuition sinking fund. So I love sinking funds. They have totally changed the game with my finances. I think it helps me not feel so guilty paying for something like therapy. That's a large expense, but by putting money away regularly for that, I know that I can afford it. I feel comfortable spending it. And one good tip is, if you have a sinking fund and you're saving up for something in 6 months, that monthly amount that you have to put in there, if you can't afford that, you probably can't afford that thing you're purchasing. And this isn't to say that you shouldn't have fun and enjoy your life. However, I do think it is a really important skill to learn how to live within your means. Now, for sinking funds, you might be thinking, okay, do I need a whole bunch of different savings accounts? You can do that. Some banks I know do like different pots. So you have like one savings account, but you can break it up into different categories. I just track my sinking funds on an app and then just keep it all in my high interest savings account along with my emergency fund. So when I get paid, I just look at how much I want to be putting towards all of my sinking funds in total and my emergency fund, and then I just move over that whole amount into that savings account. So I mentioned I use an app to track my sinking funds. I also use this for my savings goals. The app that I use is Financial. I can link that in the description of the video for you. I think you can pay for the actual budget part of this app. I only use it for the goal trackers. And I really like it because you get to set a picture for your goal, so you can make it fun, go on Pinterest, find a cute aesthetic picture, and it'll show your goal, when you want to reach it, how much you have to contribute every month to reach that goal, and then it has like a green progress bar at the bottom, so it makes it really fun. So for example, I have this Christmas presents one. It's beginning of March, so I don't have very much in there so far, as you can see. But yeah, you can update your goal. There's a green progress bar, so it just kind of looks like that. And it's really fun. It's a nice way to gamify your finances and make it kind of cute and aesthetic. My next topic is investing. You might be thinking investing's only for old, rich men, but I think investing is for everyone. I'm not going to go into what to invest in or investing strategies or anything like that. Ultimately, this is how 90% of the population are going to have the ability to retire. I know we want to live in the now, which is very important, but it's likely that you're going to live a decently long time and you're going to want to retire at some point. If you're working so hard in your life, you really deserve it for yourself. Especially if you're a young student, I highly recommend starting as soon as possible. Even if you only put $15 a month away into an investing account, anything is better than nothing. And it's never too late to start investing, but as a young person, you have such an advantage because you can take advantage of compound interest. Just to kind of explain this simply, let's say, I'm going to give a large number, but if you have $100,000 in your investing account and you get a 7% return, that's $7,000 that you just earned completely passively without adding any more money to that. Again, if you don't add any more money and you get a 7% return rate, now you're up to over $114,000. Then the year after that, $122,000, then $131,000, then $140,000, then $150,000, $160,000, and then it just keeps going. Time in the market beats timing the market. So if you're a young Canadian, I would highly recommend opening a TFSA account with your bank. By just continuously building that habit of putting a bit of money away every month is really laying the groundwork. Even if right now you're not able to contribute very much, if you have that habit, as your income increases, you can look at that and be like, okay, if I have this set percentage, let's say, of my income that I'm already investing, as my income increases, so is that percentage. And you can automate these. A lot of students have variable income and sometimes maybe you don't get a paycheck because you had a couple weeks off or something. So automatic transfers might not be the way, but if you are someone that has a bit more consistent pay, you know how much you're getting every couple weeks, automatic transfers might be a really great way to automate that habit, and the money just goes there before you can even think about spending it. Alright, so now we're going to talk about some tools for financial and mental wellness. So first, it's just going to be a good old banking app. I'm personally with RBC. You probably already have this, but having a banking app and checking it regularly is important. And that way you know what's going on in your finances. You can access your bank statements, your credit card statements, and then you can see all your transactions, you know where your money's going, all that good stuff. Next, I'm going to recommend a budget spreadsheet. This can seem super overwhelming to people, and I 100% understand, but I do really think it's a form of mindfulness and really taking the moment to understand, okay, I spent this money, how do I feel about that? Was that a good purchase? Do I regret it? Or maybe I could have bought something else with that money. Maybe I could have put that away. How was my month? Did I spend too much in one certain area? So you can know where your weak spots are. I know some people it's like clothing, that's what they spend their money on. Some people it's dining out. Some people it's books. So everyone has different things that they love spending their money on, and it's okay to spend money on things. I want to emphasize that again. You don't have to pinch every dollar, not spend a dime. That's not what I'm saying at all, but just being aware of where your money's going. So for beginners, I would recommend a really simple spreadsheet. I'm going to link one of the first ones I used down in the description. Again, I'd recommend starting out with a very simple one because it'll be more likely that you'll actually use it. So the first spreadsheet I'll link is from a creator called Simone. She's Canadian, and she has a really great beginner-friendly budget spreadsheet. The one I currently use is from another Canadian creator. It's Gabby Peterson here on YouTube. I love her budget tracker. It's definitely more advanced though, so if you are just getting into it, I would recommend holding off on that maybe, unless you're someone that loves spreadsheets and entering things in, admin work. If you love that, you'll probably love it. But again, for beginners, I would recommend that first more simple one, and both of those will be linked down below. And the last tool is, again, that app that I said earlier, Financial. Like I was saying, they do have like a budget area of the app, but I mainly use it for the goal trackers. And I think it's just really fun to have a little app on my phone where I can go in, see how my goals are doing, assign like cute pictures to all of them, have that progress bar, and again, gamifies your finances, which will always help make it more fun. Alright, so now some rapid fire budgeting tips for students. Take advantage of student discounts. A lot of places offer them. Take advantage of them. Bring your student ID card. Use them. Always apply for grants and scholarships. Apply for even ones maybe you think you're not eligible for. This next tip is about jobs. So of course, you can only budget so much. How much money you're bringing in does really impact your financial situation. So I'd recommend maybe finding a really well-paying summer student job, and it's not for the whole year, but they'll offer a higher wage just for those few months, and you can make a really good amount of money in the summer. Another suggestion is any job where you get a good amount of tips, so waitressing, bartending, anything like that. I would make sure the place you're applying to is decently big and busy so that you can kind of ensure most of the time you'll probably get a good amount of tips. Of course, there will be slow days, but earning tips is a fantastic way to make money as a student. Another great job for students is tutoring, because you likely are good at some subject. Tutor middle school students, high school students, a subject that you're really interested in, anything you want. This next tip is if you take out student loans, I would recommend starting to pay those off, even if it's slowly while you're still in school. So work throughout school if you can, even if you're taking student loans. It doesn't have to be a ton. During the school year, maybe a part-time job, and then just slowly chip away at those student loans just so that they're a little bit lower by the time you graduate. Next tip is to keep your fixed expenses low. So either live in residence, live with roommates, or even better, if your family lets you live there for free. If you live in a city with a university that you're going to, that would be very helpful. Try to watch how much you're spending on groceries. Of course, we need to pay for food, but it's really easy to actually overspend in that area, and we kind of all justify it because we're like, oh, this is like something I have to buy, which is true, but often we're kind of not being that smart with how we spend our money at the grocery store. So yeah, keep your fixed expenses low. I would recommend not taking on a car payment. If you do need to get a vehicle, I would recommend trying your best to save up for it, pay cash or put more down. I would really recommend getting a used old eater, honestly. As long as it's safe, get like a Honda, something reliable. This is not a point in your life where you need a flashy car by any means. Reduce the amount of money you're spending on alcohol or Ubers. Again, have fun, go out. But if you're going out, say 2 times every week, maybe could we reduce each night by 1 drink, or have a friend pick us up, or carpool with more people so that the Uber's not as expensive. Just finding little ways to make things a little bit cheaper. Try your best to avoid impulse spending. It's really hard. I personally like to make a list on my notes app. Anytime I feel the urge to buy something, if there's something I want, I write it down in there, and then I come back to it a couple weeks later, and a lot of the time I don't even want the thing anymore. It's really saved me a lot of money. Again, this kind of ties back into what I was talking about earlier. Understand what is within your means. You've probably heard this before, but do not go broke trying to look rich. I feel like this is especially prevalent with young people and social media. We see everyone having the time of their lives, having the nicest things, going on the nicest trips. Take a deep breath and realize what you're grateful for, everything that you do have in your life, and try your best to detach from materialistic things. Again, I think managing your finances and having an understanding of what's going on is a huge game changer for your mental well-being. I want to be a therapist in the future, so I find it's really helpful to identify ways in my life that I can enhance my well-being, and my financial journey has definitely been a great example of that. Being able to budget really gives you peace of mind and a sense of security. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any tips for students or really anyone trying to budget or manage their finances, please leave that down below. I'd love to read it. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button for more content, and if you're interested in seeing my journey towards becoming a therapist. Thanks everyone, have a great day, bye.